Good evening and welcome to the Pownal Elementary School District Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, September 20th. First thing on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. We would stand. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on our agenda, we have the Pownal Emergency Operation Plan. We have Mr. Vic Malani.
Thank you.
Present.
My pleasure to be with you this evening. And what I'm here to do is give you just a quick overview of the Pownal Emergency Plan, a little bit on how we developed it, and a little bit about the actual protocol to follow. I first want to acknowledge our superintendent and our assistant superintendent for initiating this undertaking. My directive was to have a emergency operation plan in place for every school in the district by September 1st. We've accomplished that, and so we're proud to be able to report that. What we did first when we went into each school is we conducted a building assessment. And again, there's a safety committee, as you know, in each school. Todd Phillips and the safety committee at Pownal, we spent many hours together, starting in January of last year, meeting on a regular basis to develop and design this plan. When we looked at the building as far as safety, a couple of things were apparent to us. We first looked at the telephone system. We wanted to make sure that your telephone system has the features that would be required should we have an emergency event. You have an up-to-date, you have a very modern telephone system. So again, very high grades in that area. We were very confident that your telephone system would meet all the needs that would be required in an emergency event. The next thing that we looked at was your entryway. I have to say, Pownal has really set the bar very high in a couple of areas that we're going to be looking at implementing district-wide. First is your visitor and substitute identification system. You have the Identikit, where it actually takes a picture, prints out a name tag, and I'll be meeting with the principals in a week or so. We've already talked about trying to implement that district-wide because we feel that's the best type of visitor identification and substitute identification system. In addition to that, another area where you've excelled is you have strobe lights. Again, to warn, for instance, staff or vendors or anybody, parents that might be approaching the school, that there's an emergency event in place and therefore not to enter the village. There's signage there. We're certainly going to do this in other schools district-wide. So again, really high marks in that regard and setting the bar high for us to be able to have that type of system in our other schools. The other area that we looked at is cameras. And currently you have 12 cameras that monitor both interior and exterior areas of the building. I have to report that in that area, in my opinion, we need 4 additional cameras. We need 2 interior cameras and 2 exterior cameras. And the areas where we need the interior cameras, we'd like a panoramic camera in this library setting. We also feel the multi-purpose gymnasium should have a camera. We need an exterior camera to monitor the basketball area, the basketball court, and we need an exterior camera on the northwest side of the building. We feel that those are areas where we have no visual of any activity occurring on those perimeter areas of the building. So we'd really like to see you think about including that in your budget for next year. The next thing that we did is we looked at threats and hazards, and there are 4 major categories of threats and hazards that we would concern ourselves with. First is natural, and these relate to weather-related events, whether it be in Vermont, a blizzard, certainly not as much a concern of the floods like we saw in Texas and Florida, but certainly windstorms, ice storms. So we have to have a protocol in place if we feel that's a medium or high risk type of event that we might be dealing with. The second area is biological, contaminated food, an infectious disease. we have to look at that, and is that something that we would be concerned about in Pownal? Third area is technological, hazardous material spills, gas leaks, and finally, the one that has most media attention is the adversarial acts that are human-created, whether it be criminal activity in the form of a domestic, certainly your adversarial shooter, which receives the most attention nationwide, and things like cyber attacks, school bus accidents, medical emergencies. Those are all included in that category. So, to make a long story short, we spent a lot of time with the safety committee and said, which of these threats or hazards do we think are either medium or high risk for Pownal? And when we identified those, then we developed a protocol. What should we do the moment we receive that notification? What should we do during the event? And what should we do after the event? So we have protocols for all those types of threats and hazards in place. It's so important to have this emergency operation plan, and I met with the Pownal faculty and staff. I have to report they were great. They're very motivated. They're certainly welcoming having a safety plan in place now. They know that this is in the best interest of the school, certainly to protect them and the students that they deal with on a daily basis. What's most important is in an emergency event, we know there's a time period before first responders arrive on scene, no matter what the event is, whether we're talking police, fire, rescue. Your staff and faculty have to know what to do. What should they be doing in those minutes before these first responders arrive on scene? This plan delineates what they should be doing. And now they understand their roles, and we've assigned them roles. For instance, in the stage 3 evacuation, where we'd be going to an off-site location. In the case of Pownal, it's the Pownal Center Fire Station. Everybody's got a role of responsibility. They all understand that now. We designed and developed these plans in collaboration with the first responders, the community partners that would be responding to this school in the event of an emergency. So we talked with state police, we talked with fire, we talked with rescue. They now know what to expect our people to be doing, and we know what to expect them to do when they arrive on scene. So that's why it's so important to have these plans in place. As parents, as grandparents, we know that, and again, this is what the superintendent and the assistant superintendent were very concerned about. We have a mission to provide quality education, but equally or even more important, to do that in a safe environment. And again, so we want to do everything we can to make sure that we have plans in place. We've trained our personnel at every one of our schools how to act and what they should be doing in that type of event. That's our moral obligation, that's our legal responsibility. And we took that very seriously, and that's why we were so proactive in developing these plans. We've been evaluated by the state. We've got the highest grades that we could get in all of these areas, so we're very proud of that. So that, without going into each of the events, I know that you have an agenda, obviously lots of things to talk about. We certainly have made preparations. We have plans in place for what to do in what we call a stage 1 fire egress evacuation, where we take refuge from the building in adjacent areas on the perimeter of the building. We have what's called a stage 2, where we utilize the tennis court. That would be in a prolonged evacuation to allow us to count for all persons present. We have the stage 3, Pownal Center Fire Station, should we have to evacuate off-site. And finally, we have the lockdown. And the lockdown, again, is where we would ask teachers to lock their doors, to draw their window covers, to shut the lights, no communication, and to take refuge in an area of each classroom that's designated as a safe area. One of the things we had to look at in each building, we had to determine, what about this room? This isn't a classroom. And suppose we have a lockdown. Where do the students go? Where do the staff, where do the faculty go if they're in this particular room? And we've designated those locations. So the safety committee, we went through the building, we looked at every area in the building, where students might be, where staff and faculty might be, and we've designated areas for them to go as safe or refuge areas in the event of a stage 3 clear the halls. So that's where we are. And again, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Vic, I'd also like to mention that here at Pownal, we have conducted stage 3 evacuations with our entire school. This is my 6th year here. We've done that 3 times, and I'm proud to say that the kids and the staff, I mean, everyone was very professional. The kids knew the expectations, so I think we're very well prepared here for stage 3. We've practiced those, so I think we're above the bar there as well. I think we're really trained to do a stage 3 here at Pownal.
As far as the Agency of Education, what we're mandated to do in the state of Vermont is to have 6 fire egress evacuations each year and 5 lockdowns. First 30 days of school, we have to have both, and then we alternate in October, beginning with the fire evacuation, and then we alternate with lockdowns. Our objective this year is to vary them. We don't want to do them the same time of the day, the same day of the week. We want to throw a variation in every time we do it. This, again, will not cover every possible scenario, but again, will give us more training. So this is what we're going to do as we meet with safety committees and we talk about this and plan these events. That's going to be our objective for this year.
And also, Vic, our safety committee meetings are on the SVSU calendar for the entire year, so those are set as well. So.
One very new initiative, and Donna has some handouts here, is we put together something to be posted on the website. And again, this tells parents the do's and don'ts during an emergency event. What do we want parents to do? What don't we want them to do? It talks about our alert system, which is the K-12 alert system, and gives them some information regarding that. It also includes all of our reunification sites should we go to a stage 3 off-site evacuation. It tells parents for each school where that site's going to be. We tell them and we caution them that this can be an event that can take some time. We have to be very responsible as far as releasing students, whether it be to buses or parents, that we check Infinite Campus to make sure this is an authorized person to receive that student should they arrive at the door and want to pick up their son or daughter. So again, there's lots of instructions there. You have the handout. Again, I think this will be helpful to parents that have children attending the schools across the district.
On behalf of all the students here in Pownal and throughout the district, I personally want to say thank you.
Welcome.
For heading this up. Our principal and our maintenance gentlemen, I mean, they have come up with some fabulous ideas. Strobe light was one of them.
Yeah.
And we're very proud of the fact that we could be number 1.
Yeah.
But it's great,
Thank you very much for that, and it was our pleasure to do it. You'll see one more initiative as you walk around. You might see some new numbering on some of the classrooms. Every classroom now has been numbered inside and outside, because we're finding nationwide, if a student is in a room, there's an emergency that somebody's reporting from a room, they would say we're in Mrs. Jones's room. That means nothing to first responders. So now we want everybody to know at all times what room they're in. So you're going to see numbering inside the rooms and outside the rooms.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Really
Have a good
an excellent job, and this parent piece was very well done.
Yes.
Did Amanda help with that too?
It was
Karen?
Amanda, it was Karen and myself that put it together.
Wonderful job.
Yes.
Just really a great job.
Thanks very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
You as well. Thanks, Vic.
Is that your plan? You want to show everyone? And it looks so
Oh, I can
beautiful
show
and
the
easy to
And
find
I did
when
give,
there is an emergency.
I did
Right.
give our board chair a copy. If anyone else would like one, we can sure make copies as well. So.
That's very nice.
If you hold that up for the camera, Mike can take a picture
Oh,
of it.
look at the color.
Yes, very impressive. Nice.
Yes. And that's
Great work.
That's
Great.
excellent. I mean, it's really, I'm glad it all's coming together for the safety of everybody, that's really great. Okay, next on the agenda is any public comment. Please, one at a time. Okay. All right, action items. Treasurer's report for August is enclosed. Any comment on that? All right, so I have a motion to accept it.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. It's unanimous. All right, also that was the tax rates for 2017 for the town of Pownal was enclosed. And an opening online of credit for, was she coming here today?
She was going to come, but unfortunately she had some family commitment, so I'm here for
You're here
Ellen.
for her. Because that, when I see opening a line of credit, she usually brings something for us to sign. See, I've been doing this too long. Too long.
So
Always a step ahead, that's good.
Yeah.
Ellen is looking to open a $200,000 line of credit in the event that prior to taxes coming in, that there's an operating deficiency. So this would just bridge the gap for a small amount of time, minimizing what the interest cost would be. So instead of taking out a whole loan, doing it as a line of credit, she only has to use whatever she would need.
Yeah.
Yep.
That works.
So-
Actually, she hasn't done that in the last couple of years, but 2 years ago she did it, remember? Yes, Jen?
We establish a line of credit.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded that we establish a line of credit. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. It's unanimous.
We just have to have another motion to waive the reading of the articles too, otherwise we need to read this all. It just
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to waive the reading of the article. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, all right.
There are 3 places to sign. I apologize, they're not all marked, but you'll see in here where there's multiple lines. And I'll add your John Hancock, so thank you very much.
I'm a visual learner. You know who you're looking at. Okay. All right, consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Is there any questions, discussions on the consent agenda? No, seeing none. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Policies? None. Oh, darn it. There's no policies. Okay. Facilities update.
So there were 2 things you wanted me to check on from last month, and it had to do with the elevator. So I did check with Kevin. It is now serviced every other month, but we're billed monthly, and the bill is less per month than it used to be.
It used to be.
And the other thing was the white paint over the rest of the roof, because the primary wing is always cooler. He said that bill would run about $45,000. So
my God.
I think we'll probably stay away
Skip
from
that.
Yeah.
And I think those were the only 2
Yeah.
facilities items you wanted me to
That's too bad
check
that
on.
they have to charge that much.
Yes.
I mean, it's a flat roof, isn't it?
See if I could do that in
Yeah.
the summer job.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
That'd
I'd
be a
get up
nice
there,
little
and I'm not
job.
well, I'm afraid of heights, but not that high up.
Did you get any other
That's-
bids or quotes?
He did, yeah. There were a few. And,
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's high.
Staying away from that.
Stay away.
You could probably
It's
put air.
okay for today.
I know.
It's cool
You could
out.
put air conditioning for that. All right, now we're down to the superintendent's report.
Wow, Cindy, we're zooming along here. I just wanted to, a couple things. I wanted to say that we had a great opening of school on our first day in August 31st. And our keynote speaker was Dave Melnick. He is a very gifted presenter for talking about students who have trauma in their families for any reason, and for students and adults to know how to recognize that and how to work with students and families to help students be more comfortable here at school and build a positive culture. So he gave a wonderful presentation that I thought was very moving about how we feel about that ourselves, and that all people have had some trauma in their lives. But also he will be working here with staff in Pownal and with every school throughout this school year to help them develop protocols here that help students, and it really is for all students, but especially to be noticing students that have difficulty that may lead to behavioral problems or just not being able to connect with their learning here at school, and to really help staff members work with students and families. So it was really well received
sounds
by staff
wonderful.
members.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
We're
a
definitely in dire need of
wonderful
something.
presenter.
Yeah.
And Don, I would like to add, along with the trauma, he recommended a book, Trauma Sensitive Schools, and I purchased that for our staff. We've done some reading and professional reading and a book study on that, so we're going to continue that throughout the year. And there's some very practical things in there that we can do as a staff to really ensure that our kids are available to learn. Because sometimes they come in the morning and we just have to, set the tone, because who knows what happened the night before. So it's a really good book and a good read for us. So.
That's great that you're doing that with your staff, because it really is like building those protocols. As Vic was saying, it's like we all think about it, but to know about it is really like, well, what do you do on a daily basis to help students and staff be comfortable in their learning environment? So thank you for that, Todd. That's great. So some of the work that we're doing as an administrative team with all of the principals in the SVSU is to work. We have a book study plan it's called All About Time, or It's About Time, and it's about how do you schedule and look at your staffing needs and your building needs to make sure that all students are able to get the attention that they need in the individualized instruction. So it's written by principals, for principals, really case studies of how different principals have managed that in their buildings. And so we're building a team of our principals that can share and work with each other. Todd is a great leader in that. He has great experience and has implemented many things here. Again, Pownal is a leader.
I keep telling them in Bennington that. I keep saying that. But nobody
Well,
listens.
we know, we see what's happening here. And so that is part of our work, and also that we are working on what the Agency of Education is now calling the continuous improvement plans, that we, it feels like the name changes every year, but it's to always be looking at goals that we are doing as strategies in each school building to build stronger learning environments for students. So it can include things like our trauma study as well as academics. So those plans are really important for looking for grant funding or any way that we feel that we want to move the school forward. So it's really a great process we'll be going through this year.
I'm totally impressed with the trauma study. I just think that just hit the nail on the head. It's exactly what we need here.
Many places.
Yes.
It's just a growing
But
concern.
my heart is
in
here.
I know that, Cindy.
I like Bennington. Just 17
And
years,
so
my
as
heart's
part of
here.
our first day, I brought gifts, because as part of building a culture for all of our staff members, everyone got a bag,
Imagine the possibility.
a grocery bag, so that we all feel that we're part of the team
Whoa,
and
look
kind
at